Well, now we have our answer. The million-dollar question we all been asking. What are the Rockets going to be like when James Harden doesn't play well? Well, this is the answer. This is why they brought Chris Paul here. He had a great game. James Harden he didn't play well at all. I think Minnesota really focused on making him take tough shots and not fouling him, sending to the line. But when he has games like that, this is what Chris Paul is supposed to do. Come in, take over the scoring, make plays. Trevor Ariza, the guys made shots, and that's what Chris Paul has to do when James is not on his game.
Well, and this is why you bring him in.
Right.
The discussion was about what are Chris Paul and James Harden going to look like together. But that was only ever part of the equation. The other part of the equation is when one of them's resting, you're going to have A-plus point guard play still on the court. And when someone has a bad night. I was in Houston doing local radio with the day they traded for James Harden. I was there up until a couple years ago. And the Rockets had never been able to win games like this. The only thing that I can think of was the Game 6 comeback against the Los Angeles Clippers when they ended up going to the conference finals when Harden was on the bench for the fourth quarter, when it was Josh Smith was hitting threes, Corey Brewer was hitting threes, just a wild one-off game. When James Harden plays poorly, this team has lost in the past. And now they're in a position where I don't think the Rockets have played a great game yet. Because in Game 1, it was just Harden and Capella. In Game 2, it was everyone but Harden. We're yet to get the Rockets at full force, where everybody plays well, and they're still up 2-0.
And that's the reason why I think that they're great. I think that what they can go to, they have more arrows in their quiver. They have more bullets in their holster. You mentioned they haven't played well. But one thing that they've adopted is, regardless of whoever's not going well, they're going to play some defense. Last night was probably the best case for James Harden. You see him as a good teammate. People say, well, how's he going to be with Chris Paul? Like, who's going to hold the ball? They've worked that out. But what Harden has said, I'm going to play some defense. This is the best defense he's played his career. And his ability to be able to play that defense when he's not playing, that also his teammates acknowledge that. Listen to the interviews last night after the game. And one of the other things that makes Houston special is they got 4 or 5 guys on their bench. On any given night, they can give you 20. Now, what other team has that? We saw last night in Gerald Green. Catching fire. We know Eric Gordon, what he's capable of. They got Joe Johnson. They knocked the cobwebs off of Joe Johnson. So their ability to be able to do it so many different ways, I believe that's what leads them to winning the 65 games, and that's why they have the title of the best team in basketball.
The other thing that helps is when your opposition has a guy named Karl-Anthony Towns on the team and he just scores 5 points. What is going on?
Yeah, this is when you see a young guy being a young guy. I don't think he gets it yet. I don't know why. He was playing so well when Jimmy Butler was out at the end of the season. You know, he had some big games. And I don't understand how you get to the point now where you're in the playoffs and your energy doesn't go higher. You know what I'm saying? Your passion doesn't go higher. You don't get more excited for games. This is the playoffs. You should be up for every game. I don't understand why he's not playing hard.
Here's what is so surprising to me about Karl-Anthony Towns being a non-factor the first 2 games. Is he played a much bigger game than his first playoff game or his second playoff game. His 82nd game of the regular season. That was a Game 7 environment. That was win or go home against Denver. And he was really good.
Showed up.
So, like, it's not, you can't just say, oh, the pressure's too big. There was more pressure in that game than either of these 2 games because your season was on the line. And he was really good against Nikola Jokic. Now, Jokic got his, but Karl-Anthony Towns doing his best to match him. For him to be in single figures both of these first 2 games, I never could have seen that coming.
Karl-Anthony Towns, a lot of what's going on is the coach's fault and his teammates' fault. He should be their #1 offensive threat. All right? People talk about Jimmy Butler's got the resume. Jimmy Butler played the last 3 games of the regular season. He is not in shape to play the type of basketball that Jimmy Butler should be playing. He shouldn't be the #1 option. Andrew Wiggins, under no circumstances should he be the #1 option. So from a coaching staff standpoint and from a team standpoint, you have to get Big Cat involved. And then also being young. How does he take over a team that's not necessarily his team? It was his team before they traded for Jimmy Butler. Now that they are a 1-2 punch as being the all-stars on that team, in the playoffs, sometimes it becomes harder for a younger player to take over that mantle. And Jimmy Butler, he should realize that. You could see that in game number 1, chasing Harden around. Harden gave him 44 in game number 1. He's not in the type of shape that we're used to seeing Jimmy Butler, and trying to be a great two-way player. His conditioning, to me, is a factor.
Well, you know, I was never first-team All-NBA, but I was always first-team common sense, all common sense. When you in the playoffs, you should know these games mean everything. Your coach shouldn't have to tell you to get up for these games. You should come in this arena with something burning inside you, knowing I get a chance to play in the NBA playoffs. I still have a chance to reach the NBA championship, and this is my opportunity. That moment, you can't take that for granted. And I don't care what age you are. If you're in the NBA, you have to understand that moment means everything to a basketball player.
There's also an unspoken factor about this matchup. There's a reason the Rockets are 6-0 now against Minnesota. It's not just that they're better. It's that stylistically, when you have Mike D'Antoni and Tom Thibodeau, and team building wise, when you have the way Daryl Morey has built the Rockets and the way the Timberwolves have been built, you have one team that has an edge in every game, and that edge is math. In last night's game, the Timberwolves made 7 more 2-point field goals than the Rockets. They were dead even on free throws. So what's the difference? Well, one team was 5 of 18 from 3. The other team was 16 of 52. The Rockets took 52 three-pointers last night.
That's what they do.
16 out of 52. That's 31%, maybe just under that. It's not a great percentage, but the volume of it. So when one team is working as hard as they can to get 2 points, the other team running up the court, splash, or even if it doesn't make it. Like, the math is so heavily weighted in the Rockets' favor, the only way the Timberwolves can mute that advantage is if Karl-Anthony Towns is punishing you down low. If Jimmy Butler had 7 shots, Towns had 9 shots. That's combined the same number of shots Derrick Rose had in game 1. Like, it's only 2 more than Andrew Wiggins had in game 2. Just, their approach to these games has not been smart.
Yeah, but I wouldn't get too consumed with what happened last night, because also you do have game 1 where it was a highly contested game. It wasn't like the Timberwolves had been blown out. Like, they did have the numbers in this game, but the Timberwolves had a chance to win game number 1. So I do believe, going back to Minnesota, there is a chance. Like, this is not a lopsided series. When you have your star players, they haven't played as well, and they still had an opportunity to win one of the games, I think there are some things that Minnesota can build on.
I think Houston's figured it out. I think last year when everybody took James Harden out, the guys that shoot threes now, they had to be one-on-one players. This year, when James goes out, they stick to their roles. They still can spot up and shoot threes because Chris Paul come in. They figured it out. I think they're finna sweep them.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.